Infrastructure is one of the crucial growth factors that has propelled India to the top 5 club of world economies. Infrastructure investment today accounts for 35% of India's GDP. However, infrastructure sector is also responsible for 40% of emissions. Therefore, there is an emergent and imminent need to adopt responsible and sustainable construction practices in the infrastructure sector of the country if India hopes to achieve its ESG goals. In this regard, Maccaferri India aims at assisting the country in becoming a green economy with sustainability at its core. Today, to talk about the infrastructure sector in the country, about manufacturing innovation and long-lasting and environment-friendly construction practices in civil engineering sector, we have here with us today Mr. Vikramjiet Roy, the Managing Director of Maccaferri India. First of all, I would like to ask you that currently India is witnessing a robust infrastructure growth and development in the country. As an industry, how do we collectively contribute to the quality of construction in India today?
India is really surging ahead in terms of infrastructure development, and there is a massive scale of implementation that the country is witnessing. For the industry, I think it is very, very important to collectively and consciously take an approach to first and foremost raise the bar in terms of quality, health and safety and environment, because I feel that if as an industry we start paying attention to these fundamental aspects, then there would be a significant impact on how the infrastructure in the country is being developed.
Right.
This would lead to best practices, learning from best experiences around the world and bringing them into India. While we pay attention to quality and health and safety and environment, there is also the opportunity of leaning on technology. But when I'm referring to technology, I'm also referring to techniques and solutions in construction of physical infrastructure that can be brought around. In this context, Maccaferri, which is present directly in 70 countries and executes business in more than 140 countries around the world, we have seen going around the globe and experienced some of the best practices that are adopted there and the fantastic results it provides, starting from the Middle East to Europe to North America to the Far East and even to Latin America. So these techniques, these products, these solutions are something that can have a massive impact in terms of how the infrastructure development and the construction of such physical infrastructure is taken up. We have been present in this country since 1998, and it has been our mission to bring the best in terms of technology, in terms of our learnings and experience into the Indian market, and to share it and disseminate it so that we are able to bring about a large-scale awareness.
Infrastructure sector is highly vulnerable to the act of God. Natural disasters. I come from a state, Odisha, which is riddled with cyclones every other year. To top that, infrastructure already has to take into account the hilly terrains, the mountainous areas in the country, which is not just in the north. Various parts of India have such terrains. So I would like to know that what are the techniques that can be adopted to minimize the risk of these natural disasters?
When we talk about specifically about a fragile ecosystem or a fragile geology, especially when we look at the states of Uttarakhand or even if we go as far as Northeast, it is very important for us to be mindful of the environment in which we are trying to build infrastructure, whether it is for the population settled in those regions, or whether we want to grow that region into a more economically prosperous area. Without being conscious about where we are building, what we are building, how we are building, if we just look at achieving speed and scale, then unfortunately the consequences are going to be like what we have witnessed. In our experience, in Maccaferri's experience, and this has been one of our specializations around the world, is that we have always approached a challenge or a problem by first studying the problem in its entirety, which means if a certain physical infrastructure has to be constructed in a geologically sensitive zone, then our first attempt would be to understand what is the history of that location, in terms of the hills and slopes, in terms of what has been the rainfall in the area, what has been the water flow paths through the slopes, what is the carrying capacity of the soil in that area, and how is the green cover in that area, what would be the impact of removing that green cover to make this physical infrastructure. All these things are first understood by us, and only then do we try our hand at forging a solution in terms of what would be best suited for that environment. Because if we just, for example, take a hill road and we do some random cutting and some random filling, we need to understand fully what we are planning to do there and why, understanding the history and the geology of the place, and accordingly design and build the solution.
Maccaferri India has an experience of about 25 years. This is your 25th year in the country. So in the last 2.5 decades, which has been the most challenging project, or for the use of a better word, the most interesting project that you have worked on?
I would say when it comes to challenging projects, I mean, we really do not differentiate in that sense, because we come at every project thinking of it in its entire complexity, and for us every project is challenging, because if we do not rise to the challenge, then we will not be able to come up with the best solution. So one of the projects that I spoke about earlier was the Pakyong Airport project, which was challenging, interesting, and of course a landmark of its own. But apart from that, I mean, I wouldn't pinpoint a particular project, but there are several that we have done across the last 2.5 decades. Some of them are, for example, we did a soil reinforced structure with Kannur International Airport. It was a 45-meter high retaining structure, and the challenge was that the structure had to be constructed over a void. And when I say a void, means a kind of a depression, and this was a challenging project. But then of course we had one of the best companies in the field to work with, which is Larsen and Toubro, and together we approached the solution and implemented it. It's been a great success. The project has now, I think, been or the structure has been in existence for more than 10 years now. Apart from that, we have done several projects. I mean, one of the other ones which is relevant to today's time and the hilly terrains of Uttarakhand that we keep talking about is the Lambagar project. Now, Lambagar project was very, very difficult because it was in a very difficult location, not easy to access. Then we had the challenge of extreme climate conditions there, so the window for us to do the construction was very, very limited. And then the challenge was that this was the only route that is used by all the pilgrims to Badrinath Dham. and whenever the yatra would be on, then we would not be able to do any kind of construction activity. It was about moving the road alignment completely towards the river, so that we move away from the slide prone zone. Now this slide prone zone of Lambagad has been a challenge for the authorities and the government for close to 30 years. Every year it would create havoc because the slide would be uncontrolled, and like I said, because it was on the pilgrim yatra route, it also posed challenges to the pilgrims significantly. It was a 30-year-old challenge which had to be solved, and the environment was treacherous. The scope of work was challenging because, like I was mentioning, the complete road alignment had to be shifted out to distance the road from the slide prone zone. Then we constructed a rockfall bund so that the slide, which still continues to happen, is arrested by that rockfall bund. So now this road has become like a year-round road, and the pilgrims can travel comfortably without any break, without any stoppage, without any fear of a sudden landslide coming, because even if the slide comes, it will be arrested by the rockfall bund. And we have moved the road out by constructing a 44-meter high retaining structure on the river itself, so that the road could be moved out. So it's been an engineering challenge, it's been an environmental challenge, it has been a construction challenge. So all these things put together, the fact that we have been able to achieve this with the support of the administration and the government is actually quite phenomenal.
As I mentioned that Maccaferri is a global company, and India is now the 5th economy in the World Forum. I'm sure Maccaferri has its own plans for India. What is the headquarters vision when it comes to investments in India?
So as we all know, and in the present context of the global economy, I think it's very obvious and well known to everyone that India is the brightest spot on that horizon. And I think this is very clearly seen by the Maccaferri group, that India is going to be the next big growth opportunity for the group, and the group is completely aligned with that. To that extent, we are also very enthused by the government's Make in India initiative, and given the fact that I, as an Indian citizen and being a part of Maccaferri's leadership team, would like to see great things happening for Maccaferri in India. To that extent, I think we are very well prepared to invest further in the country, and it is our goal that we will be expanding our manufacturing capacities in the country in the near future, and not just in terms of manufacturing, but also in terms of growing the organization and building the right kind of talent pool, and aligned with the government's objectives of developing infrastructure in the country, supported by the Make in India program. So all of these things are kind of getting aligned in a symmetry that is quite wonderful, and I am very happy to be sitting at this place at this time, looking at this entire picture, which makes it wonderfully opportune. And if we are able to contribute in significant ways to the building of the nation, there would be nothing that could give me more pride, and also the same applies for Maccaferri as a company in India as well as a global group.
And congratulations to the 25 years of Maccaferri in India. I'm sure it's been an incredible journey.
It has been indeed, and we are looking forward to make the next 25 impactful beyond our own imagination. So fingers crossed, and we will keep striving to contribute.